Hello and welcome to Keep Right On, a Birmingham City podcast brought to you from us here at Birmingham Live. I'm Brian Dick and I'm joined by my colleague and co-host Alex Dicken. How you doing, Alex?
Good, thank you, Brian. How are you?
Good. Yeah, really well. Really well, thank you. I like what you've done with the place behind you.
This is my house. There'd be an echo if this is my house.
Minimalist to say the least. Obviously, thank you all for joining us. There's only one topic on the Birmingham City agenda at the moment, isn't there, Alex? It's the manager search. A lot of interest and not much information at the moment around at the moment. Alex, can you tell us where we are exactly at this current time of recording?
Well, we're just over 2 weeks in, aren't we, since Tony Mowbray stepped down permanently. A lot of people have been spoken to. Some we know, some we don't know. I think it's been quite a thorough process this time around, which is encouraging, I'd say. I remember being quite critical of the way Wayne Rooney was appointed back in October, because obviously, when John Eustace was fired, only one man was ever going to get the job. It was slightly more thorough when Tony Mowbray was appointed, but that was mid-season, so the club didn't have much time to play with. And the feeling I've been getting from speaking to people at the club is that they do feel that they've got a bit of time to play with this time, that there's not exactly a need to rush things. And that's been the message throughout the 2-week process. In conversations this week, been told that there's not anything absolutely concrete at this time. But we know we're going to speak about some of the names they've spoken to in the next 20 minutes or so that we do this podcast for. But yeah, it's been a much more thorough process this time around. But at the time of speaking, writing, whatever, there's nothing absolutely concrete on one particular candidate.
Yeah, indeed. So the update is there's no real update at the moment. But what we should say is that doesn't mean to say they're not beavering away in the background, because they absolutely are. Simple question, Alex. What's the delay? Or is there a delay even?
There's a lot going on, isn't there, with managers at the moment in there, and not just not in League One much, but the Championship. There are a few jobs available in the Championship too. There's another one that might come up at if you look at West Brom, because Carlos Corberán's been linked with the Leicester job, although now it looks like Steve Cooper's going to get that job. So there are so many variables with different managers who would be quite attractive to Birmingham City, even though the club is in League One, that it's probably only right that those managers are biding their time and waiting to see what options become available to them. Because let's face it, some of the guys that Blues are interested in aren't League One managers, they're Championship managers, and are probably going to wait to see what Championship offers become available to them before they jump at a club that is going to start next season in League One.
Yeah, we're almost waiting for the dominoes to fall, aren't they? I don't say ahead of Blues or above Blues, but maybe at least in terms of league position, and the fact Blues are now a League One club. I think the manager pool is waiting to see who gets the Brighton job, who gets the Leicester job, and then in the Championship, who gets the Burnley job, who gets the Sunderland job, and then, as you say, if one of those vacancies get filled and that creates a vacancy elsewhere, then it's very much everything has a knock-on effect. Yeah. I suppose the other option is, they are taking their time, and it is a thorough process, because it goes without saying they could appoint any old manager tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, there are managers out of work, aren't there? You think of, we look at the betting. I think you're going to mention some of the odds later on in this show, but there are people like Alex Neil, Gary Rowett, obviously we all know well, even Michael Beale, managers who are out of work, who Birmingham City could probably go and get today or tomorrow if they really, really tried. So it's clear they're kind of going to exhaust all possible avenues. Probably managers who would ordinarily be out of reach for a club that is in League One before they decide on the appointment. They might come back to a Neil or something like that, but they clearly are speaking to a lot of people. Even from the people that we've kind of spoken to, it's clear that there are a number of people still in the running for this job.
Yeah, indeed. So you mentioned the likes of Steve Cooper, there's an element, there's sort of an echelon of the higher profile managers, guys like Steve Cooper, guys like Graham Potter. I'm throwing my Pochettino in there, not because he's directly linked with Birmingham City by any stretch of imagination, but those higher profile, those recent Premier League managers, they're the ones that are probably going to get the pick of the jobs, aren't they? And then you've got maybe the ones that are out of work now, like Lampard, Parker, Rosenior, sort of the trendy names, the ones considered to be young, progressive coaches, maybe in the next group. And then, as you say, you've got the sort of the more established guys like Rowett, Neil, and other people, other managers who haven't got jobs. That they're waiting to see what happens ahead of them, I guess, as a way. So while Blues are sort of waiting to see what happens further up the league pyramid, managers are waiting to see what happens in those positions as well. So it's all a bit of a standoff. Is it a worry yet, do you think, the fact that we don't know who the new manager is going to be?
I mean, it's 2 weeks in, so it's probably a longer process than we're used to. But no, I'm not necessarily worried, to be honest. The transfer window doesn't start till the middle of June. The one thing that I suppose is a little bit of a concern is that other clubs in league want to sign players, and no player is going to join Blues at the moment without a manager in place, because obviously every player wants to know who they're going to be playing under. There's still time, isn't there? You've still got 2 or 3 weeks till pre-season starts. So I'm not massively worried. I'm probably more relaxed than I should be, probably because I'm going into League One with the mindset that Blues are going to have the best budget and probably going to have the best group of players. So that should mean that they are right up there, with all the managers that we're discussing here. Whoever comes into the job is going to be expected to return Blues to the Championship, aren't they? So, yeah, I'm not massively worried. I think that the guys that are in contention, I'd be quite comfortable with a few of them. I think so. We're just trusting the club to obviously make the right decision, aren't we?
Yeah, indeed. Just to illustrate that point about players and transfer targets, we're not even sure. Guys like Lucas Djukovic and John Roddy, who we know everything about, that they're potentially waiting to see who their manager is going to be before they decide on their contract offers, aren't they? So, those are guys within the camp, much less, people that maybe are already at another club, or are free agents looking for another club. And I would say a lot of the players that have signed in League One, I've not been destroyed that Blues have missed out on them. There's no one yet to make me think, the manager situation has cost Blues a real good player there. I think when the sort of the mid-range Championship players start to go off the table, guys like Alan Brown and people like that, you'd think, would have liked someone like that at Blues. But at the moment, I'm hoping that Blues eventually will be shopping in a different store to guys like Liam Kelly, and with the greatest respect to Liam Kelly, who did a really good job at Coventry as the club captain, but he hasn't played very much anymore. I think he is 34, certainly in his 30s. So, yeah, I'm hoping that they're looking at more progressive players like that than that. And inevitably, that's going to be a longer process, isn't it? Because they will have more options.
Yeah, 100%.
Just to bring us on to the, you mentioned the bookmakers odds, the favourites. Alex Neil still is the favourite, the quite clear favourite with the bookmakers. I think we're pretty sure that he's spoken to. There has been contact with Blues and Neil. Liam Rosenior is the next favourite, sort of level in terms of odds. I'm not going to give odds because they can change, and I don't want to particularly be encouraging people to gamble, other than to say this is what the bookmakers are thinking. Rosenior and Gary Rowett are sort of level pegging. Then a bit further back, it's Darren Ferguson, Paul Heckingbottom, Ashley Cole, and then you've got David Wagner, Will Still, Frank Lampard, Scott Parker. So there's a few of those names sort of kicking around. I think most of them out of work at the moment, with the exception. I mean, Darren Ferguson's obviously at Peterborough. Ashley Cole is obviously at Blues. I think the rest of them are pretty much on the market, aren't they? So yeah, those are the names that the bookmakers are kicking around. As I say, Alex Neil, clear favourite with the bookmakers at the moment, with a 40% chance. They've assessed it as being an ex-Blues manager. So yeah, let's look at some of those names, because we have both been making phone calls. We have been trying to sort of put some flesh on the bones, and hopefully we've got some fresh information for you here. Alex, should we start off with Liam Rosenior? I think he was the first name linked, wasn't he? And he was the name that sort of early on in the process, it was rumoured that he'd turned down Plymouth, who now have a certain Wayne Rooney as their manager. But Liam Rosenior is still on the market, if we can say that.
Yeah, when it first happened, he was the kind of most attractive option out there, wasn't he? Because he just left Hull, just finished 7th in the Championship. I thought that was a decent job, really, considering that I know they had some very good players, Fabio Carvalho, Jaden Philogene, but I don't think they were as outstanding as some of the teams that finished in the playoffs. So I thought they had a good season. With regards to Rosenior and Blues, I understand there was a couple of conversations towards the beginning of the process a couple of weeks ago. I believe Rosenior is waiting, kind of taking a little bit of time after being sacked by Hull to assess his options and inform Blues to basically continue their process and do what they had to do. So, from speaking to people close to him, it's obviously clear that he is, I wouldn't say interested, but can see what an exciting project it could be to manage Birmingham City at the moment. Obviously, everyone knows about the ownership and what they're planning to do with the club going forward in the next 5 to 10 years. And like we said previously, it's an attractive job. But Rosenior has interest from other Championship clubs. There's been rumours of him in the Sunderland job, hasn't there, as well? Been rumours of Sunderland and absolutely everyone, to be honest. And obviously, Brighton, I think he'd be very keen on that gig, wouldn't he? Being a former player of Brighton, whether he'd get it, I don't know. But there's definitely kind of a desire on his part to wait to see what Championship jobs become available to him. And given what he did at Hull last season, you would expect something to come up for him in that league. So with him, I feel like at the moment it's probably unlikely, but there have been conversations with him, and there is a clear kind of liking for him on the Blue side. Yeah.
One name in, and already we've bumped up against someone waiting for dominoes to fall ahead of them. So this is exactly the case we were making early on. Would you like? What are your thoughts about Liam Rosenior? Is that a name that excites you or you're interested in? I'd be reasonably positive about that personally.
Ticks all the boxes for me. I can understand the scepticism about the style of football because it is a little bit slow build-up, and it can, Hull last season, for example, when teams sat in, especially in home games, they struggled to break them down at times, and their home record wasn't as good as their away record, I believe. But I found them very entertaining to watch. Whenever they played Blues, they played quite good football. They played Blues completely off the park in that game at St Andrews in October when they won 2-0. And I was quite impressed in that FA Cup game the replay that Blues ended up winning, against a Hull team that was completely changed from their league side the previous weekend. So I like Rosenior. He's 39 years old. He's got a lot going for him in the coaching sector. I've always been very impressed with him, even from when he was a pundit on Sky Sports, the way that he spoke about the game. I thought he sounded very intelligent and gives off a lot of good coaching vibes. So I'd be quite happy with that. I think that's kind of, it's probably the creme de la creme of this kind of manager group of managers, isn't it? Rosenior is probably near the top as far as I'm concerned. He's probably got the highest stock at the moment. But yeah, there's going to be other clubs probably a little bit higher up the food chain than Blues at the moment. They're going to be interested in him too.
Yeah, indeed. Echo a lot of that. He's got a real reputation as a progressive sort of coaching manual kind of coach, hasn't he? Someone who really has studied the game. So yeah, that would be interesting. Frank Lampard. I've spoken to someone sort of close to the Lampard camp, and they said in the conversations they'd had with him that Birmingham hadn't been mentioned. But they were under the impression that he was under consideration at Burnley. So again, another case of seeing what's available further up the food chain. And then maybe if things don't go their way, looking at vacancies lower down the footballing pyramid. We are hoping to get more on that situation, the Lampard situation, in the next couple of days. But as ever, I would say don't hold your breath, because people are away, and there are a lot of variables at play in this one. But at the moment, we saw a story come out yesterday saying that that the Blues had spoken to Lampard. Is that what the story said, Alex? Yeah. That's not. I've not had that information corroborated. So excuse me. That's where we are with Lampard. I think we've both said we'd be quite keen on Frank Lampard at Blues, haven't we? I certainly would. I've looked at his managerial record, and there's no getting over it. His last 11 games at Chelsea were really bad. He won one, but I would say it was a highly dysfunctional situation at Chelsea when he was there. I look back to his win ratio at Everton, which I think was something like 27%, which again, in very, very difficult circumstances near the foot of the Premier League, having all sorts of injury concerns. Not brilliant, but also not terrible. His first Chelsea spell was 52% win ratio. And then at Derby, with a team that potentially Derby couldn't afford, he had 42% and some success there. So, and I like the way he comes across, and I like the way his teams have played so far. So I am a fan of Frank Lampard. I'm not gonna hide that.
We talked ourselves into Lampard on a previous podcast, didn't we?
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
I think it's unfair that he's almost getting tarred with the same brushes as Wayne Rooney. I think he's got his coaching CV, management CV is far more impressive when you look at what he did at Derby in the first time. I know that he had a good team at Derby. He had, Tamori, Mount on loan in the Championship, people like Tom Lawrence, good players at that level, and managed to get into the playoffs. But I think that was a very strong Championship year as well. I don't think people look at that. You had the likes of Aston Villa, who eventually beat Derby in the playoff final, who had spent very, very big money and had a very, very decent team. You look at Leeds United, who Derby beat in the playoff semi-finals under Bielsa, had a very strong team and were one of the picks for the bookies at the start of the season to go up. So I think he did an okay job, quite a good job at Derby. I think he did very well in his first season at Chelsea. And like you say about the Everton was difficult. It was a real blotch in his managerial record. Chelsea, when he went back there at the end of was it 22-23 season, I don't think anyone would have done that well in that situation. It was a very bizarre thing that happened there in terms of the players that he inherited and what was going on behind the scenes with the owners. And obviously, I don't think that really reflects badly on Lampard, to be honest. I think he'll get a good job. But the thing is, Brian, as you said about Burnley, that's not really beyond Lampard. If you look at when they took Vincent Kompany, he probably hadn't had the best spell at Anderlecht, and they took him into the Championship and he did very well. And obviously now he's gone on to become the Bayern Munich manager. So maybe they'll look at Lampard as a similar profile appointment, another big name, somebody who likes to play that style of football, who would probably carry on Kompany's work. So, Lampard, I'm sure, like Rosenior, will be assessing his own options, and Blues are probably going to have to be patient with names like that.
Yeah, the other one we might be able to shed a little bit of light on it is Gary Rowett. It's my understanding that is not a goer at the moment. I don't. As things stand, I don't expect Gary Rowett to be coming back as full-time Blues manager. Now that could change 6 weeks down the line when this search and another goes on, and the urgency increases and the certain dominoes fall, to use that expression again. But at the moment, I don't think it's going to be Gary Rowett. Which is unfortunate. I wouldn't be opposed to Gary Rowett. People will make the style over substance observations about his style of football. To me, the most important thing next season is getting Birmingham City out of League One. I'm not too fussed about the style, and part of being a good manager is getting the most out of the resources you have available. And I felt Rowett did that at Millwall. over several years to drag that team to the cusp of the playoffs. I thought was a job well done. But as I said, at the moment, not going to happen. Another name, Mike Williamson. Thoughts about that? He's currently at MK Dons.
Yeah, well, I understand there's a little bit of admiration on the blue side for the job Williamson has done, and another guy we're going to speak about, I think, Dave Challinor, two coaches who've done really well in League Two. Williamson took over at MK Dons when I think they were 16th in November of last season, and managed to guide them to a fourth place finish, narrowly missing out on the automatics, and they got battered in the playoffs, yes, by Crawley, but I don't think that takes away from the job that Williamson had done over the whole season. 40 years old, another young up and coming coach, did very well at Gateshead. In a short spell there after finishing his playing career, and has taken it, league football in his stride with MK Dons. So he's, from what I'm told, a very capable coach, very highly rated in a lot of circles, and is clearly going to manage higher than League Two in his career. The one message I have had back on him, and this isn't to rule him out, it's just that maybe it's a little bit too soon in his coaching career for a job like Birmingham City. I think people would like to see him develop a little bit longer. I don't think he's had that many games at MK Dons, probably talking 30 odd. So that's only in League Two. So yeah, a club like Blues would probably be looking for someone a little bit more experienced. But he for me is an attractive option because he does fit all the kind of criteria that we've been talking about. He's a young up and comer. He plays the right style of football, a little bit like Rosenior. In the MK Dons were one of the highest possession-based teams in League Two last season. They created the most shooting actions. They had a lot of shots on target. They had a very, very healthy number of goals. Played really good football and absolutely walloped some teams they played in the closing weeks of the season. So he's an attractive option in my eyes, but probably a little bit too soon.
Yeah, indeed. It's again, we've characterised this previously as a choice. If they do insist on style first and foremost, they might need to rein in the ambition on promotion. I think Mike Williamson would be more of a long-term appointment. He can learn on the job. He can craft the Birmingham City that he wants, and then it might go brilliant. If it was him, it might go brilliantly well in the first season, but it also might take a bit of time while he learns the ropes in League One. Similar sort of profile of manager, Dave Challinor, obviously at Stockport, had great success at Stockport. I think he's pretty much been in the playoffs or got teams promoted in each one of his managerial seasons so far. No shame in saying it, Alex. We've got nowhere with Dave Challinor, have we?
The elusive Dave Challinor. if you're listening, Dave, give us a ring.
But again, the right kind of profile for a team for a club that wants to play that style of football. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Stockport, I've said previously, one of the teams that when I've watched League Two over the last couple of years have impressed me most. They finished fourth in the season before last, and obviously won the title last season with a very good team, a team that played really good football. They had the likes of Odin Bailey, who was obviously previously at Blues and previously on this podcast, and Nick Powell, who has been at Manchester United, been at Stoke City in the Championship, Wigan Athletic. Quite the coup to sign him in League Two, but they clearly have good financial backing there. I think the owners have put in a fair bit of money over the last few years, so they're probably a team that will come up to League One and be looking to compete in the top half of the table with the resources they've got. Challinor's had 2 promotions in 3 seasons there, pipping Wrexham both times, and we know how much kind of Wrexham's owners have invested. So that's no mean feat. There's going to be interest in him if he keeps doing this good a job at Stockport, and it would not surprise me if he is one of the names that the Blues are looking at. But yeah, we can't give anything absolutely conclusive on that one, say he's been spoken to or he hasn't been spoken to, because we simply don't know. But as far as looking at him, he does like Williamson, like Rosenior, probably like Neil to a certain extent. He ticks a fair few of the boxes.
Which brings us to Alex Neil. Now we understand that there has been contact don't we, Alex? That name was thrown in by other outlets fairly early into the piece, and we, as I say, we do understand that there has been some sort of communication, at least between the parties.
Yeah, he is a very credible candidate based on what he's done previously. If you take the Stoke job out of the equation, I think his managerial record does stack up. He did well at Norwich, got them promoted to the Premier League in his first season. Did quite a decent job at Preston. In that, I think he got three top half finishes out of 4 seasons and got them very close to the playoffs in his first season. Sunderland, short term, he was there, but he actually got them promoted from League One via the playoffs. So a lot of things work in his favour, and we know that he would be keen on taking the job at St Andrews. He's definitely interested in the job and has obviously spoken to the club. So for him, it's been a waiting game over this last 2 weeks. Probably understands, and I presume he's been told by Blues that they will be speaking to other candidates and assessing all options before deciding on their preferred choice. But so for him, it's a waiting game of a different kind, because I wouldn't imagine he's got that much interest from clubs in the Championship at the moment. I think Blues would probably be a good job for him to kind of rebuild his reputation. I'm not saying that he's not going to get another Championship job, because further down the line he probably will. He's proved that he's capable at that level. But at the moment, because of how Stoke went and things didn't pan out at all the way he would have wanted there, I think Blues would be a good club to get back in for him. And I think with Neil, we always forget, because he started his managerial career so young. He's still only 42, so he probably fits the young up-and-comer box as well, doesn't he?
Although he has the demeanour of a man who's spent rather too many seasons in the Championship, doesn't he? But yeah, like you, credible's a good word for it, actually. I don't think we can understate the amount of pressure there would have been trying to get Sunderland out of League One. There were Netflix series made of Sunderland's travails in League One, for heaven's sake. The absolute melting pot or the pressure that there would have been to get them up after so many sort of near misses and some not so near misses would have been absolutely suffocating. So that to me is a job well done. And it's also exactly the job in hand as well, isn't it? Sorry, go on. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say that's his USP, I think, as far as the interview process for the Blues job goes. Getting Sunderland, the biggest club in League One in that particular season, with all the pressure that surrounded it, given that they'd been down there for a couple of years at that time, to get them out of League One at the first attempt, as far as he was concerned, because he only took over towards the end of the season. Yeah. With the best group of players and dealing with all the pressure that entailed, is going to be what Blues are going to have to deal with next season. They're going to go to places, and they are going to be most teams' cup final. They're going to get to. I'm trying to think of some of the teams in League One. They're going to get to
Mansfield.
These clubs, for example, Wrexham, even that have come up. Stockport as well, and they're going to be their biggest game of the season. They're going to be their biggest gate of the season as well. So having a manager who has been there and done that and can understand, what's needed, I think is quite important. And I don't think, I might be wrong, Brian, but I don't think there's another manager on this list who has that on his CV.
No, I certainly can't think of any off the top of my head.
Mowbray would have been a good one. Mowbray, yeah.
Mowbray was the answer all along to all the questions, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
Unfortunately, just on that and what to expect in League One. If you haven't listened to Alex's interview with Jordan Graham yet, do so, because it's really, really interesting. Jordan speaks a lot about his disappointment that he never actually got to play in his favoured position at Blues, but he also gives some insight into what it's like in League One. And the conversation that he was having with his manager, was it Richie Wellens?
Yep.
And Richie, it's fair to say that ambitious clubs like Leyton Orient are not looking forward to having Blues in their league next season, are they?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Because a team like Blues comes down, which, let's be honest, Blues should never have gone down. Not with the team they had and how the season started. Blues should never have gone down. In the end, they deserve to go down. But most of these teams in League One, like Leyton Orient, who are a team trying to get into the playoffs or trying to challenge for promotion, look at a team like Birmingham City in the same way that teams would have looked at Wolves back in 2013 when they went down to League One, and look at it as a team that's going to have good investment, going to have the biggest budget. They should be in the top two. There's no, you can't mistake that or make any excuse. Blues should be in the top two next season with the budget they're going to have. So that takes up promotion space for these teams, doesn't it? Whereas Graham made the point that Wellens said about, Huddersfield going down, even Rotherham to a certain extent, because Rotherham have yo-yoed between League One and the Championship over the last, 7 or 8 years. And even a Sheffield Wednesday, who have done the same in recent years, going between Championship and League One, that they have the potential to get caught down there. Everything about Blues in terms of the investment and infrastructure suggests they shouldn't be caught down there. It suggests that they should go up first season, but only time will tell. Hopefully that happens. I'm quite confident it will, but you never know until the season starts and we see how the team gels.
Which all leads back to the man who's picking the team and the person who is selected by the power brokers at St Andrews as to who will be Tony Mowbray's permanent successor. Hopefully that's added some insight and a little bit of an update for you guys out there. Thank you very much for listening to everybody. If you don't already, hit follow or subscribe on your favourite podcast platform. Subscribe to us on YouTube, and obviously when White Smoke does appear over St Andrews, we'll be back on here in no time. So thank you, Alex, and thanks everybody for listening.